Welcome to this visual and performance art exhibition, Pemulihan and Pembaharuan, which will be held at the Publika from the 15th of November to the 5th of December. This is a visual arts exhibition that attempt to chronicle the pandemic, the response from visual artists and photojournalists to the COVID pandemic that's been afflicting our country for the last almost 2 years. So we go to the first venue, the Whitebox, which is a gallery in Publika. So this is the basic brief of the project, where we founded the exhibition based on the statement by a very well-known artist, Malaysian artist, Ismail, who said the role of the artist is to observe, record, invoke and provoke as reflexive responses on and about society. So it's quite apt to use that quote as a trigger point, as a platform for us to go and curate the exhibition. And the exhibition has got something like a total of 89 participants, which is including photojournalists, writers, social scientists, visual artists, object artists, and poets, and also social critics of society. So this is the first poster. Oh, there you go. The first artwork we have is a video presentation by Kamal Mustafa, who did a video entitled Recovery, and also Wong Hoi Chong, who submitted a work called The Unbearable Likeness of Shopping, which is the immediate response of a lot of people who suffered, who were during the COVID period, where the obsession with shopping due to the lockdown and whatnot is more amplified than usual. And we now have a very interesting work by Sabri Idrus, a very large work, painting, which he reportedly spent almost a year, if not more, to complete the work. The work was, as all the submission by the visual artists in this project, is to submit work that were done during the period of COVID, and we do not encourage work that were done before the COVID. So all the works were done between the period of 2020 and 2021. This work is very fascinating. This Sabri's work, because it is entitled Namus, which is a symbol and metaphor for the angel Gabriel, as in the Abrahamic religious tradition. Gabriel is the angel that is well known as the deliverer of divine messages, and it was a work that's got some, I would say, some spiritual and mystical significance. And then we had the oldest participant in our project is an art teacher who's now 85 years old, Syed Bakar Syed Salim, and he lives up in Taipei, and he's done surprisingly very delicate and intricate work within the genre of folk art. It's a series of 3 paintings, which he entitled The Cage. So I as a curator, I thought that this is almost a reflection of his own self-portrait. The idea being locked down for almost 2 years. Very rarely was he able to go and see his own family, his children and his grandchildren. So which is quite traumatic for somebody who is at the age of 85. And his sense of color, of palette, has gone back to almost a Southeast Asian palette of muted colors, of the greens and the blues and whatnot. It's very reflective of the natural colors around the region in the tropical colors. It's very interesting work, rather contemplative. And then we have this work by a series of monoprints, 5 monoprints shaped like a capsule, a small throwback or a small hint of the COVID pandemic, of the need for medicine. And so these are monoprints where Faisal Suhif, the artist, did the marking based on the platform of the earth, where he climbed, and in some instance he climbed up a tree and then wrap the canvas around the bark of the tree as a process of marking. So this is quite very evocative work, very interesting work, and very organic work. It's almost like a view from a planimetric view of the earth and the decay of the environment as you look at it. So it's very emotive, you know. And then we have this submission by, interestingly enough, Dr. Roslina or Lynn Ismail. She has submitted a series of small grids arranged in 16 grids, small grids of abstract fragments almost. And Lynn is she's actually a technologist, very well known in her field as a nanotechnologist. She's now switched from science, from being a scientist and a technologist, to be an artist. She went back to school, did a master's in fine arts, and recently went for a 3 months residency at a Slade School in the University College of London. And she's into this abstract work and exploring her own emotive response to the world via abstraction. So it's very interesting work, very emotive. You can see a little bit of organized structure being a scientist that she is. Then we have Kamal Mustafa, who is actually a filmmaker. He's retired from commercial filmmaking. Kamal graduated from the Polytechnic College of London, PCL, in Regent Street, London. Very well known as a narrative filmmaker, did a lot of commercials and whatnot for corporate commercials. Very well known for his commercial for Petronas, very moving commercial. So this work is actually about the mutations, the various variants of how the virus, in a very random fashion, and spike protein changes its shape and form over time. It's very interesting work. And Kamal also has submitted another series of digital painting, which is deviance. Basically, it's a metaphor, a symbol for how nasty this virus can be when it starts taking shape, different shape. I'm not sure beyond this, I'm not sure exactly what he's saying, but obviously Kamal, being a narrative filmmaker, have got his own take on many things. Now we move to the figurative part of the exhibition. We start with a very interesting work by Amron Omar. Amron is very well known as a figurative painter, very good set of drawings, and in his own very well known subject, which is pertarungan, the struggle, the fight. Relatively is an internal exposition or exploration of himself and the other. So you can see during the COVID period, his work is far more expressionistic than usual. And at one time, of course, Amron was known as an academy kind of figurative painter. And then here we have a work by Samsudin Wahab, one of the young contemporary artists who's touted as a superstar in Malaysian art scene. Budin, as is well known, has gone to a far more expressionistic and narrative kind of work for this painting. It's basically a story of a journey, a story of a disappointment, a story of some hope left. You can see the male, the dominant male, dominant female, and behind it, at the background, is the memory of a mythical figure right up in the sky, and the journey through the sea in the fishing boat. There's almost where the paddle has been broken, but still there's some hope. It's not totally lost. It's not totally gone. And then the termites, the flying termites, which in some Malay mythology or is a Nusantara symbolism for the calm before the storm that's going to come soon after this. Then we go to this little room where we also have a series of small narrative work. It's a little display room where we're showing works in progress. One is by Chai Chang Huang, who is a very well-known artist many years ago, who hardly ever exhibit now because he's more or less a teacher, teaching art at one of the art institutions in Kuala Lumpur. So Chang Huang, because of the COVID, he cannot go out. His movements are limited, so he just get out of at every opportunity that he can actually go out. He went out and took photographs around his area where he lived. And he intends, of course, to make a book eventually. So we are showing this as a work in progress of an artist who wanted to document life around him. So we have a display like in a little dark room where there is some element of works in progress and whatnot. Yeah. And here's another work by submission by artist Khairul Azmi Shoaib, far more well known as Meme. So Meme has submitted a visual diary, a video, some prints, frame prints, a very gothic frame, and a visual diary of his work, where he is a time-based diary. He's got drawings, sketches, and a little bit of a story. For example, he's got Tiba-tiba Encik Divok 91, which is basically COVID, kembali bertukar kepada bentuk asalnya, bulat and whatnot. So these are we are encouraging the artists to actually submit visual journals of what they have done. How do they actually occupy themselves during the period of self-isolation? So this is rather interesting. And I think it's very fulfilling for the artist to be able to do something like this, and drawing and having a visual journal of their own inner thoughts and feeling. And this is another submission by a young, not so young artist, a mid-career artist, Mat Ramli Mansoor, who is self-taught. Started to get into a meditative period, meditative phase of where he is now, because self-taught artists are generally considered as outsiders in the art scene in Malaysia. But Mat Ramli actually he functioned as an assistant, as a sculptural assistant to one of the major sculptors in Malaysia, to Tunku Sabri Ibrahim, and that's how he learned his process of learning art. A lot of it is by osmosis, interaction with other senior artists, and also his own sense of internal creativity. So I think we selected him because he showed a lot of promise and potential to be a very good figurative painter at some point in time. One of the artists that we showed here is Haslin Ismail. Haslin has won the major prize for the Young Contemporary Award, which was organized by the National Art Gallery, and he had recently had a residency in Sapporo in Hokkaido, Japan. When he returned, his drawings now are very well organized and demonstrated incredible skill of painting with this kind of continuous brush strokes that is technically challenging, but he's done it very well. So I'm pretty impressed with this kind of performance by Haslin now. And this one is another artist, Dr. Kaisu Koski, who is one of the surprise for the show, for this exhibition. Dr. Koski responded to our open call on the internet, a global open call, and she is well known as a performance artist in Europe. She's Finnish in origin, ethnicity, and she is now lecturing at the Sheffield Hallam University in the UK. Her work is based on a concept of hug, which is a very well-known movement in the early 2000s about hugging, about empathy between one human being and another, about closeness, about the ability of breath. But of course, in the COVID pandemic, breath now, instead of being a medium of friendship, empathy, closeness, love, kindness, has now potentially become toxic. It can actually have got murderous intent, because the breath is the aerosol is the one that is a medium of contraction of the virus. Here we have a work by Masnur Ramli Muhammad, or Manon, Masnor is part of the art collective of Matahati. For this exhibition, Masnor submitted a very dark and very moody and somber work. Basically, it's about life cycle with the infant, the baby in the mother's womb, and surrounded by the lotus, the petals of the lotus flower. So this is a very, the lotus of course is a symbol of, it's almost a divine flower within the Southeast Asian context. It's got a certain kind of holiness to it, but the palette that Masnor used is a very dark palette. It's very graphite, charcoal, very moody, and in some way very sad, but it's also very reflective of the emotional content or the emotional response of an artist during the period of the pandemic.